On this episode of CARPe Diem, wine and dine takes on a new meaning. How has the food and beverage industry responded to COVID-19? We discuss the present and the future with Ian Tossinson, Heather O'Hara, Miles Prodan, and Dane Chauvel.
CARPe Diem, seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome. It's hard to believe that due to COVID, restaurants closed seemingly overnight. What will it look like to go out for dinner again? Well, we asked Ian from the BC Restaurant Association to weigh in. Thank you, Ian, for joining us. Now, restaurant business, we read a lot about what's going on in that sector. Tell us what the inside scoop is right now.
Well, it's an industry of 15,000 businesses, 190,000 employees, and there's 180,000 employees that are unemployed right now. So it's a devastation. Every restaurant was asked to close, but some of them came back doing takeout and delivery. But the industry is in a crisis would be an understatement. It's just the worst that anybody's ever seen in their lifetime.
Can you tell us a little bit about what potentially could happen or what the suggestions are for reopening the restaurants?
What a restaurant could look like in stage one would be very different than what you and I are used to. You'll probably be at 50% capacity. You may see servers wearing masks. You may have your temperature checked when you go into the restaurant as a guest. And certainly when the employees come to work, the same thing. So very, very high protocols. You may see a sign in the window that says, this restaurant has been, gone through not as much a certification, but an acknowledgement of its responsibilities. Because if we don't do that, then we're not going to have the public confidence. People go, you know what, I'm going to stay home and, do my thing. We need to provide an extra layer of security and public safety. And it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be really expensive. And it's going to take a lot of time for us to get this throughout the province. Because the other issue is that we're very multicultural. And so we just can't do this act in English. We have to do this act in many languages. So that when you, Carmen, go to a restaurant, you're going to have consistency in terms of our standards, not like, well, they're sort of doing something and they're not and whatever. So it's going to be a big challenge. And therefore, I think our desire is to open up a little slower as opposed to going faster. And if we get it right the first time, we'll be able to stay open and gradually grow back to more volumes or more people, as opposed to coming into the gates, not doing it right, and then having to reclose again. It's just not going to work.
So how do people with less money go into restaurants that perhaps are going to be a little bit more expensive? Is that what you foresee?
There is a lot of people out of work, but I think that when people get back to work, it's going to happen quite quickly. And I think that people say, you know what, I'll go spend my $20 in a restaurant. That restaurant, though, will probably have smaller portions, better price points, maybe going down the market on their wine list, and instead of a $15 glass, having a $7 glass wine, so on and so forth. And we're also going to see, which I think is awesome, is a trend back to local. Is local food and local beverage is going to become ever so important now because of how insecure we were with our previous food channels and food supplies. So, just look at what's happening in the States right now with beef production places being shut down because of COVID. But I think we come out at a better place, potentially.
Ian, thank you so much for being with us, and good work. And we're all waiting to get the go ahead, and we'll be back on those restaurants and patios as soon as we can.
Thank you, and thanks for your support.
When we come back, we'll discuss why it's so important to support our local farmers.
Still ahead on CARPe Diem.
We really hope that people will, if they haven't shopped at a farmer's market before, or they haven't shopped from a local producer before, this is the time.
CARPe Diem, seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. It's more important than ever to support our local businesses, especially agri-foods. Heather from the BC Farmers Markets explains why. Heather, you're the executive director of the BC Farmers Markets. What's the landscape out there right now?
Sure. Yeah, we're very busy. A lot of organizations, a lot of things are adjusting to the current times with COVID-19, obviously, and BC Farmers Markets are no exception. So, we're a provincial association that represents 145 member farmers markets in every corner of the province. A really important lifeline. Farmers markets are an important lifeline for local food, local farmers, local food processors. And what we've done in collaboration with BC Centre for Disease Control, Provincial Health Officer, Ministry of Ag, is really started to modify our in-person physical markets so they don't look and feel the same way as you might be used to. We're managing things like physical distancing, all the kinds of guidelines that other kinds of organizations are implementing. We're also now implementing at the farmers markets, and we've introduced an online farmers market option for some of our markets as well. And we're really excited because about the majority of our markets are really interested in adding an online store to their market this season for customers across the province.
What's your message to our viewers?
I think this time in history is going to really get people to reflect on the value of their local production, their local farmers, their local manufacturing, their local economies more than ever, and how we need to support them, not just in crisis, but moving forward, so we build a resilient provincial, local, community level, national, whatever that is for people, economy, keep people working, keep people fed, and really be a self-sufficient, resilient society. And I think this is a time where people are going to reflect on that. We really hope that people will, if they haven't shopped at a farmer's market before, or they haven't shopped from a local producer before, this is the time.
Heather, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much for your interest and getting the message out. We super appreciate all the interest in this whole issue of food, local food, and on the online and everything else in between.
Nutrition is so important. Before we take a break, I want to show you the story by Leah on a local organization called City Dream Center. And they're delivering food to where it's most needed.
This April in Surrey, 1,000 food hampers were delivered to families and seniors in need during the COVID-19 crisis.
North Delta Secondary.
Right now we're putting together 1,000 food hampers for our inner city schools. So City Dream Center runs an Adopt a School program, and that program is for inner city schools that have, like, they don't get regular meals. Right now they really don't get regular meals because they don't get the breakfast and lunch program.
Tell me how it's changed with COVID-19. Are you having to put more stuff together? What are the challenges?
If we would have had the funding, how many hampers could we have used? And I said, we could have easily done 5,000. They would have been gone in a day. Like, the need is so big. We work with the school board really closely, and they're asking for like 50, 75, each school is, the numbers are huge, and they're the ones identifying the families the most in need. So they know they don't really have food support.
Take one of each cereal?
For us, we have stress and we have our cupboards full of food. I can't imagine these families who are self-isolating and they don't have any food in their cupboards to feed their children. It's heartbreaking. And so we're just doing our part. Some seniors are shut-ins, they can't get out. We're also delivering to them. We gave one to a 95-year-old woman yesterday. She was so grateful because she hasn't been able to get out to get any food. So yeah, it's been great. We're looking for a building or a warehouse that we can just continually do this as funding comes in.
So if you have an idea, let us know.
Thank you to all of you who have supported, those of you who have given financially towards us. We couldn't do this without you.
For as long as they can during this crisis, City Dream Center will continue to help the community and those in need. In Surrey, I'm Leah Bolton.
Still ahead on CARPe Diem.
In British Columbia, we've got a designation called BC VQA, and what that stands for is it's certified 100% BC.
Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. The closure of restaurants has also affected local BC wineries. How have they adapted? I reached out to Miles to find out the importance of this industry to our local economy.
We've got about 300 wineries here in the province of British Columbia, about 80% of them here in the Okanagan Valley. The last time we did an economic impact study, it was a $2.8 billion, had a $2.8 billion impact. I always caution government or whoever else I give that number to. That doesn't mean it's $2.8 billion of profit split up among 300 wineries. It just means that's the amount of money that this industry contributes to the province in total.
Now, BC wines are considered an essential service. That must make everybody very happy in your office.
Well, it does, and they very much are. And I think it's probably not as much about the wine as it is about an agricultural product. I think people need to recognize, and we sure do in our industry, that you would not have a BC wine if you did not have a BC grape. And so it all starts in the vineyard, and it is essential, like any ag product, that the vines continue to be tended and taken care of. BC vintners and winemakers are renowned for their care and stewardship of the land, and so it's really key important. So that's what it's all about. It's all about farming first, and then what you have in the end is the wine. And in order to have more grapes that are growing, it's spring here in the Okanagan, and they're growing, and they'll be coming in the fall. So we need to find a home for what's in the tank and bottle today.
Now, question for you. You're talking about farming. Now, that's a labor-intensive business. How are the farmers doing with staff?
Well, what this whole COVID-19 has really identified for us is just how reliant we are on foreign workers. Our industry wouldn't be where it is today, and I think arguably agriculture in this country, and specifically for sure in this province, without foreign workers, temporary foreign workers coming in, we just wouldn't have that. So there was great concern when we first started down this program or this crisis, and was really how are we going to get the people to come in to be able to take care of the land. There was discussion about there were people who have been laid off and maybe they can come and fill the void, and it's just not practically possible. I mean, these temporary foreign workers are not casual by any stretch, and many of them have been coming in to help in the vineyards for years and generations, and so they are seasoned professional agricultural workers, and they're critical to the success of the wine industry.
Do you feel that your member wineries were prepared for this sort of thing, or somewhat prepared? And do you think that whatever systems are being implemented right now have longevity? And what can wineries do moving forward to resume business, or to at least bring back the numbers?
Wineries have had to pivot. You talk about restaurants, the restaurant channel is gone. That just overnight it disappeared. When the restaurants closed, that channel disappeared. Now there is here in the province of British Columbia, they've made the ability for restaurants to include a wine with a meal. But really, we see that as just an opportunity for them to help move inventory they may have had already. We haven't seen them starting to stock up on that. It was really just a mechanism for them to help to liquidate some inventory. So with that channel closed down, and as I say, the tourism season is closed down, and we don't know when that's going to open up. That's really made people pivot. So those wineries that have had strong wine clubs or do a big online business, it helps. That helps a lot for them to be able to get around that. And being able to ship direct to a consumer is critically important.
Miles, before we say goodbye, what are your final thoughts? What would you like to leave the viewer with?
In British Columbia, here in the Wine Institute specifically, we've got a designation called BC VQA. And what that stands for is it's certified 100% BC. So you know for a fact that it's come from British Columbia. So if you want to support, I ask that you would support BC wine, please look for BC VQA on the label, and you'll know for certain that you're supporting a local BC farm family that's grown and made that wine specifically for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, and good work.
My pleasure. Thanks for your support, and buy BC wine.
When we come back, a great story about high quality seafood being delivered to our most needy.
Still ahead on CARPe Diem.
It's tough times, there's no doubt about it. Food's run short down here.
CARPe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. In this final segment, I want to showcase how the seafood industry is turning adversity into altruism.
It's tough times, there's no doubt about it. Food's run short down here. Folks are definitely in desperate need to get nutritious meals and give them some hope to keep them moving forward. So sorry, a bit choked up. I think that it's a very, very complicated puzzle.
Well, here on the downtown east side in Vancouver, a unique partnership between a fishing company and 3 local social enterprises has resulted in a nutritious meal made with the freshest of ingredients for those who need it the most.
That'll take us up to the line for sure.
It started with a telephone call actually of Organic Ocean to us, where they offered us a large donation of lingcod. They'd sent one of their fishermen out fishing, and I think we got about 1,300 pounds of fresh lingcod out of that. Most organizations in the downtown east side are closed, so there's only a few that really make and supply meals. So it's a complete team effort.
How did the recipe come about? I mean, you've been informed that lingcod is coming in.
Yeah.
You've got a short amount of time to come up with it.
There was a collaboration of myself with some other community folk down at Have Cafe, as well as the Goodley Group. The chefs of us got together and were spitballing ideas on what we thought would work best. And, we thought the chowder was the best way to go.
Tastes lovely. It's had proper seasonings, proper flavor. I think it's good.
It's our job as a community to come together and help look after these people as best we can.
Well, it certainly smells fantastic. During times of COVID, this truly is a tale of neighbours helping neighbours.
Dane Chauvel of Organic Ocean founded Neighbors Helping Neighbors. I reached out to him. Dane, I'm so pleased to have you on our show, and I really want to find out a lot more about your fabulous social enterprise, Organic Ocean, giving back to our most vulnerable in Vancouver, and it's called Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Tell us about that.
As you know, we've been supplying Canada's finest seafood to restaurants for over a decade now, and when the coronavirus hit our economy and our business, we pivoted and offered to take the same seafood that we'd been providing to top chefs and the finest restaurants and make it available to our local community. And this became a real neighbors helping neighbors experience. One of the fishermen who supplies us recruited his 17-year-old son as his crew. They ran 30 hours to the west coast of Vancouver Island, got a boatload of first-class premium lingcod. We brought it back to Vancouver. One of our partner processing companies called Fish Seafood worked overtime on Good Friday to process it and make it available in a consumer-friendly form. And then we distributed it to 5 charities led by Goodley Food Society so that they could distribute up to 10,000 meals throughout the downtown east side of Vancouver, which is Vancouver's and probably Canada's most vulnerable neighborhood.
10,000 meals? That's quite a bit.
From the point where we sat down and said, you know, we've got to consider doing something different. And we really had 2 options available to us at that point. We could have shut down the enterprise, kept the freezers running and sent everybody home, or else we could continue operating, pivot to a new distribution channel for us and keep our fishermen and our workers employed. And we were able to put this together in the span of 2 weeks, which, you know, was remarkable.
Now, what are your plans for the next, let's say post-COVID? What happens with you, this program and your company? What changes have you made that you plan to keep?
Well, we've been asked this same question by government agencies and regulators that are overseeing the health and safety of food processing facilities, which has been very topical in the media these days. And what we have said is that not only did the coronavirus inspire us to create a new business channel, but it has actually raised our game in terms of how we run our operation. We were amongst the very first to recognize what was happening. It enabled us to get PPE before the rest of the pack. We outfitted our workers with that equipment in order to keep them healthy and safe so that they could keep the seafood supply chain running. And those procedures that we have implemented and protocols, I think they're going to stay. I think they're going to survive the corona pandemic. We're going to do a better job. Again, it's one of these silver linings of this very gray coronavirus cloud.
Thank you so much, Dane, for taking the time to be with us. And on behalf of all British Columbians, I want to say thank you for this initiative. And I am, for one, so proud to support you.
Well, thank you, Carmen, and the team at CARPe Diem for giving us the opportunity to tell our story.
Thank you for spending some time with us today. I want to thank our guests as well, Ian, Heather, Miles, Dane, and of course, Dean and Leah. If you would like to have a conversation with us, get in touch. And that's the show. Remember, as our CARPe president, Moses Neimer, always says, the best way to keep going is to keep going. So, Carpe Diem and seize your day.